Good morning students, Saira. Now today in history we will be doing the revision of the first chapter, that is sources of history. As you know, you have your unit test, so accordingly we will just revise the topics, right? So as in 9th standard we are learning the history of India in the post independence era, right? So that means we are learning the history in the modern period. Now history of modern period is divided into 4 different levels, which are those: regional, state, national and international level. Now there are various sources of history which make us which provide us with all kind of information of the past events. Okay, so which are the different sources which help us to get information about the historical events? So we have the written sources, material sources, oral sources and audiovisual sources. So we are going to learn about each of the source in detail. So what comes under written source? In written source we have the newspapers, encyclopedia, periodicals, then diaries, reference books, correspondence, documents in the archives, government gazettes, postage stamps. Okay, so these are the things as which act as a written source and provide us the information of the past events. Now what are archives? The place where historical documents are preserved, they are called as archives. Where is the main office? The National Archives is at New Delhi. So the main office of the National Archives is situated at New Delhi, and which is it is said to be as the largest archives in Asia. Right? So children, as we are going through the slides, see that you might get any questions in the form of MCQs, true or false, right, wrong. So accordingly, we'll just go through the slides. Now the next was the Press Trust of India, that is PTI. After 1953, PTI acted as an important source of information, and it provided reports, photographs and articles. Also, it started its online service later. Now, newspaper play a major role in as a written source. It is said to be as the fourth pillar of democracy in the modern period, and it was one of the major medium of information. From 1961 to 2000, there was no other alternative to print media. So it was through newspapers, magazine, periodicals, etc. The information was provided to the people, and social awareness was created amongst the people. Then liberalization and widespread use of internet in India. And now later, as we find that as the science technology was developed, there was liberalization, freedom for the widespread use of internet. Now we at within a fraction of a second, all information is available to us, right? So it is because of the free use of the internet, the technology that is made in India. But even though it is so, we find that the print media is still continued to be powerful. Okay, then the next source was the postage stamps. Now how do postage stamps play a major role? Like you can see the various stamps with different themes on it, right, and different colors. So they depict about the various historical events that had taken place during that particular period. So the postage stamps depict us, it tells us the history of because they don't reveal themselves anything, but they are the historians, they make them speak. And so we find that after there were several changes were made in the postage stamps according to the events and the happenings. So postage stamps can be based on various themes like the flowers, birds, the national events or the prime ministers, or any kind of historical changes that have taken place. So accordingly they depict the history of that particular country. The government of India, it issued the Jal Cooper stamp in 1977. Now who is Jal Cooper? He is an internationally acclaimed philatelist. Who is a philatelist? An expert in the subject of postage stamps, right? So this we have done in our previous lesson also, in the previous part of the lesson. So accordingly detailed information is provided to you about Jal Cooper. So you need to revise it thoroughly. Then he was born in a Parsi household in Mumbai, and Cooper edited India's Stamp Journal. He is said to be as the founder of the first philatelic bureau in India. So Jal Cooper is said to be as the founder of the first philatelic bureau in India. Then he also founded the Empire of India Philatelic Society. He wrote many books on this subject, and he took the study of Indian postage stamps to international level. So it was Jal Cooper who had reached the study of postage stamps at an international level, right? Then further, the postage stamps on Jal Cooper, it plays an important role as a source to understand the significant contribution in this field. So he has very greatly contributed in the field of postage stamps, and the postage stamps which were being made, they depict about his contribution in this field of postage stamp, right? Then the next source is the material source. Now what is the material source, children? We find that in material source, coins, places of worship, things in daily use, royal seals, ornaments, museums, clothing, and modern architecture. So they are available in a materialistic form, right? So let's study about each. So first what we are going to learn about is the coins. Now how do coins play a materialistic role? They help us to understand the history. Then it changes in the printing currency note. Then it also tells us, makes us aware about the changes which are brought about in the printing of the currency note. And Reserve Bank of India prints the notes. So who prints the notes? The Reserve Bank of India. And where is the headquarter? Its headquarters is in Mumbai. So we can see the print of the notes. They change after some, like just 2-3 years back we have learned about, seen the demonetization, where you could see the notes, the currency notes were changed by its color and also its look, right? So the coins and the currency notes, it depict about the changes, right? Then how do we learn the contemporary issues in India? That is the metal that is used, and also through different shapes. Okay, we can see the coins are available from few years, like from the ancient periods till now. We could see that there are various size and shapes of the coins, and also the diversity of subjects. As we see that on both the sides of the coin, there is something inscribed or printed. So that tells you about the that particular event of the nation, and also it keeps on changing according to the themes. So it tells you about the different topics on different subjects. Then the coins, they convey the message of population control. Then it communicates the importance of agriculture. Yes, it also tells you about, makes you aware about the population all over and control population, and also it communicates the importance of agriculture. So more importance is given to the farming section, right? And the next source, that is the museums. Now how do museums play an important role? So the museums, it depict the characteristics and display the social and cultural heritage of the state. Okay, so you'll find that there are many things preserved in a museum, and they depict the social and cultural heritage, wealth of that particular state, and also enables us to understand the history. And some private collectors also set up their own museums. So some of them have the hobby of collecting certain things based on certain themes, and they have their own museums. So museums, they are based on notes, lamps, nutcrackers, cricket equipments, anything, right? So accordingly they depict the heritage of that particular state. Now the next source of information that is available is the oral source. Now what comes under oral source? In oral source we have folk tales, folk songs, proverbs, ballads, ovis, etc. Activists were inspired by the povadas of Lok Shahir Annabhau Sate and Shahir Amar Sheikh during the Sanyukta Maharashtra movement. So by means of folk tales, folk songs, proverbs, ballads and ovis, a social awareness or awakening was created in the minds of the people, right? And various schemes were implemented or new upliftment was brought about in the society. So accordingly, oral sources play a major role. So children, as we are going through, you might get questions based on this, on the particular slides which we have done so far. You might get, as I told you earlier also, like MCQ type questions or true or false, right, wrong, one sentence. Accordingly, you just revise the notes as well as the slides that are there in this video. Then the next source of information is the audio visual source. Now what comes under audio visual source? So in that we find television, films and internet. They are called as the audio visual medias. They play a major role. Then we have domestic and foreign channels come under this head. So we also have domestic and foreign channels like History Channel, Discovery Channel, National Geography Channel, right? So wherein by means of live information also sometimes has been provided for us with the help of these channels, right? Then we have in Marathi, you have that Bhatkanti channel wherein they visit to various forts and all. So accordingly they provide us the live information about that forts and what is the present condition of the fort and all. So in this way, television, films and internet, they play a major role as the audio visual. Then we have the Film and Television Institute of India, that is the FTII. Now the government of India started the Film and Television Institute of India in Pune in 1960. So when was it started? In the year 1960. And why? To provide public education. In order to provide public education, the government of India started the Film and Television Institute of India in Pune in 1960. And Indian news reviews, you will find been depicted in this various by means of this FTI Institute. So you will find important events in politics, social issues, arts, sports and culture. So what do we get to know from FTII? You get to know about the important events happenings in politics. It talks about the social issues, arts, sports and culture. Then also the produced various documentaries on prominent social leaders. So this FTII has also produced various documentary films, short films on various prominent social leaders or social workers also sometimes, like you have Baba Amte and all. So accordingly they provide us the information about this social workers, social leaders, on people who have made major contribution for the country and about important location in India. So also they provide us about the people who have greatly contributed, like you must have seen the short film of Sachin Tendulkar, the documentary film, right? So accordingly there are various documentaries based on celebrities or also the social workers, social leaders, national leaders who have played a major role in the society, right? Then you have, see, this is the logo of FTII, okay? Then further you'll see that we have learned important sources of writing history, and accordingly these sources will prove to be inadequate in the 21st century. During the transformation from landline to cell phones, a gadget called pager came up for contacting people. So these sources, written sources were available so far, that was okay, but they proved to be inadequate in the 21st century, and it was during that a transformation had taken place wherein people used to use the landline phones, and these landline phones were being at that time a new gadget was invented that was called as a pager, wherein through with the help of the pager you could just send messages, okay, or you could contact the people. And so it did not last longer, but this pager, it did not last for a longer period of time, and huge information of amount of information was available on the internet, is used for studying history. Then what is required? Whatever information is provided as a source, accordingly you will find the truth and authenticity is needed. So that should be the information, that whatever is available, it should be reliable, it should be authentic, right? And so Further, study of history has become easier with these sources. As these sources were available, we find that the study of history has become easier, and these sources are now easily available. And also government has made various efforts in order to preserve these sources at all levels. So efforts are made in order to preserve these historical sources of our country. So children, now we have just revised our lesson number 1, that is sources of history, and accordingly now you must have got an idea about what the lesson is about. So now go through the slides and just refer once again in detail. At the same time, if you have your textbooks, please do read the textbook also. So any questions from the textbook, from the slides, in the form of as I told you, the slides which we referred, you might get objective types questions also. Accordingly you may refer to that, right? So get ready for your test. Now we shall stop here, children. Thank you.